Okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody to the Barrier Busters April 2021 meeting. Glad that you're all here today. We've got actually a very busy agenda with a lot of presentations. So without further ado, starting us off will be Kara Painter from Housing Access of Washington County, who's going to be providing us some details around the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Kara, you there?
I'm here. Do I need to share my PowerPoint or do you guys? I don't know how this works.
If you want to be in the driver's seat, you can be. Otherwise, my colleague Amber can do so.
I don't see a spot where I can share content. Is that what I click?
Yeah, it should be a little like little upward arrow.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yep. All right, awesome. So this presentation is on the SARA program. So what is SARA? It is the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance Program. It's designed to keep residents in their home during the COVID-19 pandemic, and rental utility and internet assistance in the amount of $560 million will be distributed throughout counties in the state of Michigan. Just a little local overview for everyone. The funding is administered by MSHDA as is most of HAWC's direct funds for assistance, but it is a partnership locally between HAWC, SOS, OCD, Legal Services, and the local courts. So the SARA application can be completed via the online portal or by paper application, and the program will run through December 31st, 2021. So who is eligible? Renter households that have income that are less than 80% of area median income and meet the following criteria. So they must have either qualified for unemployment benefits after March 13th, 2020, or they've experienced a reduction in household income, incurred significant cost, or another financial hardship due directly or indirectly to the coronavirus outbreak. And they also have to be able to demonstrate a risk of housing instability or a risk of homelessness. And that can be evidenced by a past due utility or rent notice. So, and typical HAWC funding does require a court summons for prevention. What's different about SARA funding is that it does not require any court documentation. Households just have to be able to show that they're behind on their rent or utilities. That's it. So you don't have to have any formal documentation. It could be a ledger from their landlord that shows that they owe money. It could be just like a gentle reminder from the landlord, like, hey, this is how much you owe for utilities, some sort of past due statement from the utility provider would be sufficient, but it does not require a court summons. It's really important for everyone to know. Who is not eligible? Households that have incomes over 80% area median income, households that cannot show a COVID hardship or risk of homelessness or housing instability, households that are homeowners, land contract holders, or that live in commercial properties, and renter households that are not behind on either rent or utilities. These are the income guidelines for Washtenaw County for the SARA program. So you'll see the bottom row is 80% of area median income. Top row is 50%. So you can see that they're decently high, the 80% of area median income for Washtenaw County. I placed this in the PowerPoint because I figured that Moon will probably make this available on the Barrier Busters website, and that it might be helpful for folks in the community that are helping clients with this funding. These are examples of COVID hardships and the best way to document them. So if they received unemployment after March 13th, 2020, they can show proof of that with the unemployment monetary determination letter or screenshots from the unemployment website showing the payments. It just has to have the person's name on it. That's the caveat to that. Or they can have a signed letter from the applicant stating the time period they received the unemployment benefits. Most of the other hardships that they can show just have to have a signed letter from the applicant, just outlining what the increased expenses or the reduction in income was. So you can see that most of it is not super daunting here in proving that this was a COVID hardship. Most of it is self-certification from the client themselves. And again, this is straight from the MSHDA website. I actually just screenshot it and put it in the PowerPoint and thought it would be helpful if folks needed to reference this PowerPoint later on. For documentation, driver's license or state ID, a lease if there is one. We know sometimes folks have verbal leases or there isn't a lease available. A lease is not required, but we would like one if there is one. For proof of income, the first 2 pages of the 2020 IRS Form 1040 or proof of income for the last 30 days. So if they receive Social Security benefits, unemployment, they could show the benefit statements for either of those things. They can use a bank statement if it very clearly shows where the deposit is coming from, or paycheck stubs if they have those available. There's a lot of workarounds for both income and ID. So if someone's really struggling with that, there are some other options as well for those. They also need a past due rent notice or a notice to quit, court summons or complaint, or a judgment. And again, the past due rent notice could be a ledger showing that they're behind, an informal notice saying that they owe money. They'll need their landlord's email address and a copy of all utility statements the tenant is responsible for, and an internet bills or statement if they have no internet. So one unique thing about this program is that while we encourage landlords to participate, it's not a requirement for the program. So if for some reason someone's landlord opts out, the tenant can still receive assistance with the SARA program. So for the application process, there is an online application. The website's right here, www.saraapp.michigan.gov. And this is just a screenshot of what the beginning page looks like. They will enter their first name, their last name, their email, their landlord's email. And when they hit next, they will get an email and their landlord will get an email. With their email, it will give them a SARA number and ask them to verify their email address. And this will allow them to continue with the application. Their landlord at the same time also gets an email, and there'll be a landlord application on their end that they'll need to fill out, as well as documents that they'll need to upload. As far as uploading documents with this application, pictures of documents with their cell phone should be fine. As long as we're able to read the documents clearly, photos of documents are fine. Now, if someone is really struggling with technology, it's just not their thing, or maybe they don't have access to a computer or internet, we do have a paper application process. So if they're having difficulty completing the application online, they can give our intake line a call. It's at 734-961-1999, and Hawk staff will help clients complete the paper application. For rental assistance, up to 50% of area median income, which was referenced in that income portion of this PowerPoint, they're eligible for up to 12 months of rental assistance, and included within the 12 months, 3 months of that could be used for future rent assistance. So for instance, if someone owes 9 months of arrearages and rental arrearages, we would be able to help with the 9 months, plus they would be eligible for an additional 3 months of rent moving forward, so future rent assistance. For anyone 50 to 80% of area median income, they're eligible for up to 10 months of rental assistance, and included within the 10 months, 3 months of those could be used for future rental assistance. So again, if they were 7 months behind on the rent, we would be able to help with the 7 months of arrearages, plus they would be eligible for 3 months of rental assistance moving forward. And tenants can also apply for an additional 3 months if necessary for housing stability. The per month program limit for this is 150% of the HUD fair market rent based on home size and county. So this with the future rent assistance will be really, really beneficial for folks affected by the COVID pandemic to help them get back on their feet. This is for utility assistance. You can see for 1 to 2 persons, the maximum one-time utility payment is $1,500, which includes future payment, which would of $300 that can be used as credit towards the utility bill. And it goes upwards from there. As you can see, 3 to 4 persons, 2,000, 5 and up, 2,500. If someone has home internet that they pay for, flat $300 internet stipend is available for households that have home internet, and they're able to provide proof of a recent internet bill or statement in their application package. This $300 payment will be made either to the internet service provider directly or the tenant. This is really nice, as we know that there's folks that are working from home. There's folks that still have children who are doing online school and have to have access to Wi-Fi. So this will be really helpful for those folks. Landlord participation. These are the documents that the landlord will need to provide. So the completed SARA landlord application, a copy of the lease if a written one was completed, a ledger showing the tenant's payment history in 2020 and 2021, a W-9, and verification of court costs if there are any. I should note too that if a client is in the court process and they're getting assistance through the SARA program, just like the eviction diversion program from over the summer, we'll be using a settlement statement or a conditional dismissal, which protects the tenant's credit, which is super important. For any questions, you can always direct them towards me. I may not have the answer immediately for you, but I will certainly look for it. The number to the left is my cell phone. You can call or text me. Center number is my office number. I am working remotely, but I do have my office phone with me. It works over Wi-Fi. And then, of course, my email address is there for you as well. The only thing that I would ask is that you have your clients call the Hawk intake line. I love talking to clients, but I don't have the capacity to talk to everyone, unfortunately, even though I would like to. So the intake line number is on this slide as well. Are there any questions? I'm going to be really impressed if there are none. I'm going to feel like maybe I did a good job, but does anyone have any questions?
I just asked, oh, go ahead.
Hi, I have a question. Can this just be used for DTE payments?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question maybe fully. If someone's behind on their utilities, whether it be whatever the tenant is responsible for. So if they're responsible for gas, electric, water, any utility.
But they don't have to be behind on their rent in order to qualify?
That's correct. It could be either or. So if they're only behind on their utilities, for example, they can still apply for this program. And if they fall within that 50% or under area median income and they're only behind on utilities, they may still be eligible for that future rent assistance as well, even if they're only seeking the utility assistance. So one caveat is that they have to be a renter. If it's someone that owns their own home, they're not eligible for the SARA program. It is specific to renters.
I think my question piggybacks on that as well, in terms of, you mentioned the internet stipend. If somebody only needs internet, they're paying their bills, but they need help with internet. Would they be able to access that based off of their AMI?
No, unfortunately not. If they're only behind on internet, they're not eligible for SARA.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. I should also mention that we have interpreters available at Hawk. So if you have clients that English isn't their first language, we use Language Line. So we always have access to interpreters.
Kara, there's a few questions in the chat. Emily asks, how long is the process currently taking?
So we're still kind of feeling out this program. It's new to us. I think our goal is to keep things under 30 days. We have closed out some cases. We actually started paper applications before the online portal became available. It's been a long wait for us at Hawk. As you know, there were some issues with the money being appropriated via our legislature. So while we were waiting for the online portal to launch, we started paper applications, and I can tell you that we've closed out some of those cases already. So I think our goal is under 30 days, but what I will say is please be patient with Hawk. There's a lot of applications in the portal, I think probably close to 300 right now, and so there may be a bit of a backlog at first, but we'll work through it.
Somewhat, Emily asked, I did hear a hold is put on for shutoffs. Is that part of the process? If somebody's facing a shutoff, that staff will put a hold on?
Yes, I believe so.
Jennifer Musser is asking a question. If someone owns their home but rents a lot, would they qualify? I think they're talking about, like, you know, a mobile home situation.
I believe so. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to help with the mortgage for their mobile home, but if they were behind on their lot rent, then yes, absolutely. And I believe that we'd be able to help with the utilities too, but I might have to read the policy a little further on that one and get back to you.
Charo asks, are undocumented persons eligible?
Yes.
I don't see any other questions in the chat. I have one. As far as income, is that calculated on their gross income? Is there any type of deductions that households can make to adjust it?
I believe it is calculated on the gross income, Moon. I will have to double check the policy on that one, but that's typically with Hawk rental funds. We've always had to calculate based on gross income.
Kara, I have a question. If you said that people have to provide, or the landlord has to provide the ledger of their rent for 2020 and 2021, what if they moved into a new housing community recently? Do they just need to provide the ledger from when they've lived there? Okay.
Yeah, whatever's available. The reason why they want to go back so far is because if the person was helped with the eviction diversion program, we have to make sure that the landlord didn't go back and charge again for things that they were supposed to remove from the ledger with the eviction diversion program. It's a little complicated, but the person, if they received help with EDP, they're still eligible for SARA, but we have to make sure that the landlord, in looking at the ledgers, that they're not charging for things that they shouldn't be charging. Like if they were supposed to waive 10% of the rent, that they did that and didn't try to recharge it. So if they only have a recent ledger from 2021 available, that's completely fine.
I work with somebody that's self-employed and they haven't done taxes yet. Is a notarized letter, or do you have any idea of what the income documentation they could provide that would be adequate?
Yeah, so if there's nothing really available for them, in certain circumstances, we can have them self-certify their income. So that could be an option if they don't have anything readily available. Were there any other questions? I'm always available too. I think most people who talk to me regularly will tell you that I am always available. You can call me, text me, email me anytime. That is what I'm here for. So please feel free to reach out to me anytime. And I really mean that. So don't feel bad if you have questions and you want to email me or call me.
Kara, thanks so much for your presentation. Much appreciated. There is one last question, but it pertains more to mortgages. Is there a good recommendation for those with a mortgage who are struggling to pay it since they're not eligible for SARA?
Moon, you might know
now there is
better than I do.
Yeah, I think I can handle this one. So right now there is basically some moratoriums on mortgage foreclosure. if someone is facing foreclosure and the loan company is actually trying to pursue foreclosure legally, that would sound like it would probably be a referral to Legal Services of South Central Michigan. Additionally, I'm going to be putting in the chat, OCD's got some resources around mortgage and tax foreclosure, including links to online housing counseling agencies, including NeighborWorks, 1-800-HOPE, et cetera, who might be able to help homeowners too. One of the things that's different with this crisis thus far than the foreclosure crisis in the aughts and early teens is a lot more banks are willing to do modification or forbearance plans, which is a little bit different. But in any case, I would really encourage you folks to reach out to this web link I'm sending you. All right, so moving on. We now have Tracy Kress from Department of Health and Human Services, who will be talking about the child welfare and team decision-making meetings.
Hello, how are you guys? I'm the project coordinator for team decision-making with DHHS for this statewide. And we just implemented in the Washtenaw area March 29th, team decision-making, and I'm gonna pull up my PowerPoint. So hold on just a second. Okay. Let me make sure that you have the right display here. All right, so it's good to be here today to share this team decision-making process. You may have heard of family team meetings. This is somewhat different, but very similar. And just we're here to kind of talk about, our partnership with you all. Some of you may have the opportunity to sit in on these meetings as you're already providing services to the family, but we're also looking to expand and partner with the community and actually have folks sitting in on these meetings that maybe you're not connected to the family, to advocate for them and to be there as another point of view, and also to provide services or resources to the family. So that's why I'm here today. So I will tell you all about it. So we're working with Evident Change, and they're a nonprofit, and they use data and research to improve social systems. They're working with the state of Michigan. They're also, not only are they working with us on team decision making, but they're also working with us on revamping our child protective services process and our structured decision making tools that CPS uses. So exciting work. Team decision making is evidence-based as well. And I'm going to skip this. And so what is a TDM meeting? It's a meeting convened by a public child welfare agency when a child's safety is seriously threatened by a parental action or inaction, and we're considering removal. We also do these meetings when a child in care faces a possible move. So maybe from one placement to another, or when we're considering reunification. And so we talk about the pillow test. So if a child is going to be moving their head from one pillow to the next, then we would call a team decision-making meeting. And there's some values and beliefs that we have behind these meetings. And one of those is that a group is often more effective in having a solid, sound, good decision than just an individual. We need all those diverse perspectives. Families are the experts on themselves. They know their strengths. They know what services have worked for them, what hasn't. The family's worker is invested in making a live decision in these meetings, and they want to ensure with the family the child's safety. Also, when families are engaged in a respectful manner and included in the decision-making process, they can identify and participate in addressing their needs and their capacity for providing safety for their children. Members of the family's community add value to the process. That's what we're here today, as natural allies and experts on community resources. There's some key elements behind the TDM process, the model, and this relates to the purpose of why we do this. So there's 5 of these. 5. So parents and youth are involved in all decisions regarding separation moves. We want the parents' voice and the youth's voice and choice in these meetings. And this creates equality. We want everyone to have the same process. And our timing, we want to do this before any separation or move. So we do them when we're considering removal and prior to court if it's an emergency removal. We want them held at the earliest point possible. So if there's a possible placement change, we want them to, at the earliest sign there's a problem in the placement, the first time that caregiver calls, venting, because we want to see if we can stabilize that placement, less trauma for the children. We want to, if that's a good placement, we want to preserve it. And what can we do to preserve it? What resources can we provide that caregiver? We want it as soon as possible. And we also, with reunification, we want to make a really solid plan for reunification. We want to have that meeting at the earliest point possible. We want to have them before unsupervised parenting time. And this is all about engagement, engaging the family in the moment, in a live decision, not after the fact. We also want to be inclusive of informal and formal supports. So we want to have a group of folks supporting the family, wrapped around the family, supports that they can utilize throughout the duration of the case, but also after we're no longer involved, so that they don't come back to our attention. And we want equity, inclusivity, and transparency. We want to partner with folks, and we know that this is very hard work, and we need the community to help us in making the best decisions and supporting our families. And then we have a skilled, available, experienced facilitator trained in a 6-stage model that's evidence-based. They're objective. They have, again, years of experience and extensive training in facilitation. And we do this for fairness. Every family gets the same process. Every youth gets the same process. And then we want to be data informed. We are entering data into our system after every meeting. We have steering committees, and we're doing self-evaluation. We're seeing if we're having fidelity to the model, where we're strong, we're increasing those efforts, where we're weak, we're making continuous quality improvement plans so that we can make sure that we're consistently doing what we need to do this with fidelity and for sustainability, and do it the best and refine as we go. So the other states that are doing this, there have been some research projects done, and what we have found for outcomes is all the outcomes that what we got into this work for. Shorter stays in out-of-home care, kids going home sooner, less trauma, fewer placements in residential care. So kids, more like this last note, more initial placements in family settings, whether that be relatives or foster care placements. Increased likelihood of a parent-child reunification in 1 year, and increased likelihood, if not reunified with a parent, but then finding permanency with relatives within 1 year. So when do you convene the TDM? We're convening TDMs at initial removal, so considered or emergency removal, again for placement stability, and also for permanency, so prior to any unsupervised parenting time and prior to return home. Now, the state of Michigan has collected some data, and one of the focuses for this, those last two, was that we were seeing some maltreatment in care that was happening later in the case, either due to during parental visits or during, relative placement, but the parents having access to the children, or when we were unified and had not closed out the case yet, there was now another maltreatment by the parents. So what we're really trying to do on these, having the TDMs before unsupervised parenting time and before return home, we're trying to do some really solid safety plans, planning for the what ifs, planning if there is a relapse, thinking through things and the supports that the family have and the resources out in the community, so that we are planning for life. Life is difficult, things happen, but if those things happen, what can they access to get through those moments and keep their kids safe, so that we can keep those kids at home and that it doesn't come back to our attention. You guys stop me at any time if you have questions. I do not mind. I'm going to pause here. Is there any questions before I go forward? Okay, who is invited? Much like the family team meetings, but the family team meetings are more regarding case planning. And any family team meetings we did around moves prior will now be team decision-making meetings. But we invite parents. We invite youth if they're 11 and older. Or if they're, it depends on their emotional developmental status. But even when they're not there, we got to get creative about getting their voice at the table. I think I said family, friends, and non-family support. So we want those people that the family turns to. It doesn't matter how many folks will fill up the room. It doesn't matter if they're appropriate for placement or not. They are appropriate for maybe driving the parent to treatment. We want those folks at the table. They're the folks that are going to be there to support them when we're no longer involved. Service providers, other DHHS staff, that could be like a health liaison, education planner, various DHHS staff, and community partners. We really want to open our decision-making table to the community and really, support our families and get to those services that are not so cookie cutter, but those grassroots services. And then attorneys. We really encourage guardian ad litems, children's attorneys to be present. Other attorneys have come as well. But this is not a legal process. This is our decision-making process. So there's different types of community partners attendees. There are support people who are invited by the family. There's those service providers, formal or informal, who are either currently or potentially working with the family. Community-based or agency-based. With the service providers, there are certain service providers that we are also targeting or trying to recruit because we know we use them a lot, and families need them at the table. So we are recruiting certain service providers to serve as reps as well. That might be domestic violence, substance use disorder folks, mental health folks. But in addition, we really need someone the family is likely to relate to as a member of their community. That's really who a community rep is. Some of those grassroots, faith-based agencies, neighborhood agencies, maybe an agency that's culturally competent. Like I often use the example in Dearborn, we have Access that provides a variety of services to Arab American families. So the role of the community rep in the TDM meeting is to serve as that natural ally, that potential advocate for the family. And I usually jump ahead with this, but they're really having the community there balances that power differential in that room. We know that, there's a power differential between the system and the family. We really want more supports there for the family to balance out that power differential. Represent the family's community based on shared neighborhood, faith, ethnicity, which I said before, to share an awareness of resources which may support the family. You help the family feel supported during the meeting. They have someone there that is listening and supporting them in the moment, asking questions that they may be afraid to ask. So you're helping them understand. You're also helping the team members understand the family's community and its strengths. And you're helping the family understand any safety or risk concerns that the agency is presenting. And you're participating in when we're sharing ideas to ensure child safety, we're brainstorming, you're putting out their ideas too. And so some of this we've already said, but let me see the ones that we might not have said. We also ask that our community partners, when you're in a TDM, to speak up and ask us clarifying questions regarding our jargons, our acronyms, or when we start talking policy. Many times families are intimidated by the process, intimidated by government, have had prior experiences that might not have gone so well. And so although we're trying our best to engage and be as empathetic as possible, just by who we are, they rightfully so may not trust us. So they might not ask the questions that need to be asked in order for what we're putting out on the table to make sense. And we want to make sure that they're engaged throughout the process. So asking questions on behalf of the family is a key piece, and help connect families to services and identify opportunities to develop long-term relationship within their community. So it could be services, it could be resources, whatever we can do to better connect them to the community. oh, there's other things. So, you know, folks may say, wow, that sounds like a commitment. I'm not sure if I could do this. Right now our meetings are 100% remote because of COVID, but really when we're really trying to engage, that, you know, it's not the ideal situation. The ideal situation is that we're face to face with families. And so when things are different and we can get ahead of this, we will go back into having meetings face to face. We do not want all of our meetings at the office. Typically, we do the considered emergency removals at the office, but the other meetings regarding placement stability, unsupervised parenting time, and return home could be done in the community. So, and in some offices, I know we you know, have challenges for space. So that's one way people can get involved, is if you have space that we could utilize for meetings with families. We like to have it in a family-friendly setting. Any way you can provide resources, and I think that's one of the things that you guys already do within this very barrier-busting group. Connect families to supports in their communities, again, creating that long-term safety net, and reach out. We also want to reach out to you all to volunteer for any community events or any ways we can support you. It should be a mutually beneficial relationship. So if there's presentations you want us to do, anything like that, that's important as well. And beyond today, we have a community rep training coming up May 25th. And so if anybody's interested, I will respond all to this meeting if that's appropriate, attach this PowerPoint, attach a community rep guide to TDM, and I'll attach the invite for the community rep training that's May 25th in the afternoon. And then all you have to do is, actually, it gives my email address. So if you RSVP to me, I just, as soon as I get your email and respond, I send you over the Outlook appointment. And again, creating a successful and mutual beneficial partnership is also key, where it's not, you know, it's give and take, and that we're able to support you all in your endeavors as well. And that's pretty much it for me. Any questions? Here's my contact information, and then the contact information for Evident Change as well. Pat Rideout is our main consultant. Melissa?
Thank you so much, Tracy. This was great. And just so you know, too, the materials have already been sent out to the Barrier Busters listserv, and also will be posted on our website. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll send another alert out to the group at that time.
Okay, so you got the PowerPoint and the guide and the invite?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Save me.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks so much, Tracy.
Just reach out to me if you guys have questions. Take care.
All right. Up next, we have Aaron Kuhn from United Way of Southeast Michigan to give an overview about 211's impact.
Yeah, hello. As Moon said, my name is Aaron Kuhn. I'm one of our resource specialists for United Way of Southeast Michigan, serving Washtenaw and Monroe counties. So I'm just going to run through a quick deck of slides just to give you, just kind of introduce what the dashboards are, and then I'm going to directly show you them on our website. Our organization put them together probably about 1 or 2 months ago, and I think they could. To me, they're very neat in terms of a lot of the data they can provide, and I think they can be very useful to your organizations in terms of the information they provide. So just in case anyone isn't aware of what 211 is, we provide information and referral services to members of our community 24/7 via phone. That's our primary method, calling 211, but we also allow people to reach us by email, by live chat, or they can just search our database themselves online. Our focus is primarily basic needs, so things like food, housing, healthcare, childcare, financial literacy, energy bill assistance, things like that are what we focus on, and then use some primarily services the 6 Metro Detroit counties of Lapeer, Macomb, Monroe, Oakland, Washtenaw, and Wayne. Over the last year, we've really had our our services have just really been in need, like all of us. I'm sure we've seen a spike in our services. Our calls to our call center doubled, especially when the pandemic first hit. And then as the testing sites rolled out and the vaccination sites and opportunities rolled out, we've been assisting taking those calls as well. All in all, as you can read there, we provided over 280,000 referrals to 143,000 individuals since the pandemic started last March. So obviously, USIM, we answer the 211 calls, but you guys and your organizations do as well by being the ones that we send those referrals to. And we know that there's a lot of impact that us at USIM makes, but also all the agencies that we fund and all the agencies that are in our database. So we wanted to really show that impact. So we created 2 dashboards, a 211 impact and a community trends dashboard. They very much go hand in hand. Giving either broad overviews or really deep dives and zip code specific informations, and can be toggled to pull whatever data you want based on zip code, based on an area of geography, based on a span of time. And the information in our dashboards are updated in real time. They're current as of yesterday. We obviously can't include data from today because today is still going, but as of, come tomorrow, we'd be up to date through today's date. So these are just a couple of screen grabs. I'll take you to the websites in just a second, but just to give you a quick overview of what they look like. This is our main 211 impact dashboard. You can see the number of referrals we provided, what are the top services, and how that has looked over time. You can then hone into a specific county and get county specific data or zip code specific data, like that screen grab shows below for zip code 48190. Community trends dashboard, it's like I said, they pretty much go hand in hand, but that one can give you a bit more community-based data in terms of like what top cities are requesting 211 services, what zip codes, how are they reaching out to 211, and what are they reaching out for. I think it can be very useful to see which sections of a county or area of geography are in most of need, and what those needs are, and what organizations are filling those needs. To me, all those things can be very useful in terms of funding proposals or writing a grant, or for your organization showing the need for your existence and the impact that you guys are providing and the needs that you're filling. Like kind of going into what I just said, we can see what agencies are getting referrals and what those referrals are for over any period of time. At least since as far as the data goes back, which is July of 2019. So that's just a quick overview. I'd rather just show you the dashboards myself, just because they're pretty interactive, and I think it's useful to see them in action. Feel free, though, my contact information is there. We're always looking to really grow our database. We know that there's agencies and we know that there's programs out there that we don't that aren't included yet, that we know we want to get included because you're filling a vital need in the community. Feel free to reach out to me at any time, and I'm happy to work to try to get you in that database, or if you are already in our database and get referrals from 211, if you have a new program or a new staff member or contact information that you want to update, feel free to reach out to me at any time, because we want to make sure that the information we provide to the community is accurate and up to date, so that they don't get upset and that you guys don't get referrals that you might not need, or not need, but not not fit the scope of your work. So to get to our dashboard, you just have to go online. You can go to our website. If you want to join our equity challenge, feel free. That's that we're doing our first equity challenge ever. I guess but you go to our work, and then just 211 impact. They do take a second to load just because it's a bit of information. So this what you're seeing here is just our kind of our overview. I'll make it full screen so you can fully see it. The map of the state of Michigan should load. So you essentially almost anything on the screen here you see is able to be toggled or adjusted. I really wish the state was showing up. You can, on the right here, you can change the date range for whatever you want. If you wanted to show what's the last month looked like, what's the last 6 months. So there we go. There's the state. And when you update that info, when you change like the date range, for example, all this other information will automatically change in terms of how many referrals have been provided, how many services have been requested, and what those top services are. You then can click on a specific area. So I'll click Washtenaw, and then you'll see not only did these numbers change up top, but the top 10 services and referrals changed based on that. And then you kind of get this heat map of Washtenaw County. So you can then click on this specific zip code here that I clicked on, and again the data changes again. So you now for this specific area you have 2,600 referrals, and these are the top top referrals. And really you can kind of just hone into the each specific type of referral and what the need is and where does it exist in the community. Let me close out of that. Right above it here is this green, excuse me, I'm colorblind today. This blue link here for our community trends dashboard. Again, I'll make it full screen here so you can see it. It does take a second to load just because it's a lot of information. Down at the right here, or at the bottom, is how you navigate left and right. You can also just hover over where it says 2 of 8 and click on the various slides. The first 3 are really just giving you definitions and the terms that we're using, so that if you happen to use this information or take a deep dive into it, if you're a data person like myself, what it means and what the categories are what they're for and what the information that they're providing. You can, at the right, again, you can adjust the dates. So for fun, I'm just going to adjust them to show only just this year, just so we can get a snapshot of what have been the needs in this year so far. So once I change the dates, you're going to notice all the numbers change. And since this is Washtenaw County Barrier Busters, I'm just going to select Washtenaw, so we can see specific to Washtenaw County. So throughout this year, we've had almost 3,000 visits by people in Washtenaw County to either calling 211, emailing us, or visiting our website. The top cities: Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor, the top zip codes, and most people, it looks like, have contacted us by just calling 211 rather than using our website. You can see on this next page here what have been the top services requested. And obviously it was just tax season, so that was one of the popular ones. Rent assistance, so timely presentation there by Hawk about Sarah. And then these are some of the unmet needs, which is either because this a person doesn't qualify, they may be already maxed out their benefits, or an agency didn't have the capacity potentially at that time to serve an individual. Similar to the broad overview, it just shows the entire county here, but you can click on specific zip codes and see what the top 5 services and referrals were for those zip codes. You can zoom in as you will, and see those top 5 services and what those referrals are. The thing I think that's most neat is you can, by agency, look up these referrals. And see why people are being sent to that agency and where those individuals are coming from. So you can be able to see, where your customers are and why are they reaching out to you. Again, on the right, you can adjust it by what type of contact method you use. You can adjust what type of service, and then referral agency. All our agencies are listed. Just for an example, I'm gonna I should have a way to search. Yeah. Just to give you a specific, I'm just going to search the Washtenaw County Office of the OCED. There we go. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I'm sorry about this. I'll do when I know that I won't screw up Jewish Family Services. of Washtenaw County. So we provided, looks like this year, 17 referrals to that agency. Most of them, have been for either a senior ride program or job finding assistance. When you go to the next page, it still maintains that we selected Jewish Family Services. This last page here is just for website only, actually. So it looks like 2 people did find them by going to the website, and they were from zip code 48197. Where then if you go back to page 6, these are the people who called us. And, again, you can see it looks like most of their, you can see exactly where those referrals are coming from and why they reached out to us and what we referred them to. So without going any deeper in the weeds, that's all I just wanted to show you, because, I think there's a lot of neat data. And I think it could be very helpful and beneficial to you guys, just in terms of figuring out what need is out there, and what your agencies are doing to fill that need. To me, I think I like data, so I just think it's interesting. But maybe if you're looking for an extra selling point in a grant application, or just to show your impact, it's there. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them. If not, we can keep moving.
I have a question.
Aaron, thanks. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So when people call to 2111, do you offer translation services?
That's a good question. I feel like I should know that off the top of my head. I can follow up with you if you want to put your contact information in the chat. I can. I would think that we would offer like kind of your base translations for languages that we commonly have had to deal with, but I'd be happy to look into that for you.
Thank you.
And then in the chat, Emily's got a question. Does the 211 system take any kind of feedback from clients regarding if their needs were met?
Yes. Yeah, there is. It's randomized, but it does. Like, our system does prompt us to follow up with individuals a week or 2 later and say, hey, were your needs met? Did you get the help you need? But we don't follow up with everyone, because that would be near impossible. We're trying to work towards a bit more of a community-based care in terms of a CIE, or community information exchange, but not there quite yet.
All right. And on that point of the community information exchange, Jewish Family Services actually presented on that, about a Washtenaw County Community Care Hub a couple months back. And I'm just putting in the chat to where that presentation is. You can also watch I believe it's the February Barrier Busters meeting to get some more details. It is something that Barrier Busters team is actually interested in joining. And we think it'd be a very powerful feedback tool, not just for our agencies writ large, but also to 211, who is going to be involved in the project, I understand.
Cool.
Any other questions? All right, Aaron, thank you so much for the presentation. I, for a fact, actually have used 211 data in grant applications that have been successful. So I strongly feel in the value of it. Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, up next from over at the Judson Center, we've got Connor Robinson and Tracy. Tracy, can you say your last name, because I do not want to destroy it?
It is Kapazanski.
Wonderful. Take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. Let me get my PowerPoint up. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. I can't see you, but that's all right. So I wanted to do a real quick overview of the Judson Center, and then I'm specifically going to talk about our Post-Adoption Resource Center, and my colleague Connor Robinson is here to talk about our AFPRR plan. So the Judson Center, we started in 1924, almost 100 years ago, as an orphanage in Royal Oak, and today we operate statewide, but primarily in 5 regional offices, being Washtenaw, Macomb, which is our Warren Center there, Redford, Royal Oak, and Farmington Hills. And we serve about 10,000 children, adults, families each year. Our core programming is, for the most part, child welfare. We have many different family preservation programs, foster care, adoption, and many supportive services that I'll tell you a little bit about more so. We have autism services. We support adults with disabilities. We have a mental health services, and then also a health clinic, which is just a year or two new to us. In Washtenaw, the programs that are based here, we have an office that's over on Packard and Carpenter, and we have our BCP, or Building Community Partners program, or parent partners who are working with birth parents who have their children placed in out-of-home care or foster care, and we're working with the birth parents with a peer-to-peer support model to help them reunify with their children. And then Connor's going to tell you about our regional resource teams here in a minute. We have the Michigan Adoption Resource Exchange. So when kids are unable to be reunified with their families and agencies don't have an immediate adoptive family for them, our MARE program helps to do targeted recruitment specifically for adoptive families for those children. And they have a website that has them all listed. Then we have our ARC program, the Adoption Resource Consultants. So when kids are on MARE for a little bit of time and still have not been referred to a permanent family, our Adoption Resource Consultants come in and do some major file mining and networking and recruitment for those children who have been waiting a little bit longer. And then our Post-Adoption Resource Center, I'm going to tell you all about. And then in Washtenaw, we also have autism services. They are based over by the airport or over by Costco is our office for them. And then we do foster care and adoption in Washtenaw County, not a lot, and that's based though from our Redford office. So just a little overview of what we do in our Washtenaw office. And then PARC specifically, we support families who have adopted or have a subsidized guardianship of a youth. And that would be through the Adoption Assistance Office that the subsidies come through. I always tell folks, though, to refer all guardians to us. We might not be able to do some of our in-home services, but we are still here to support guardian families. And lots of times people miss that because they hear PARC, post-adoption. It's not post-adoption / guardianship, although maybe it should be. But what we do, we have a team, although a small team, of social workers who are very knowledgeable about adoption dynamics in families and in youth and how that may play out and how to connect them to resources for stability. We offer crisis intervention and case management services. We are available 24/7 for availability to be with our families and help them through whatever they may be facing. We often we offer in-home services. With COVID, we are still offering those, but it depends on the family's interest and their availability and comfort level for providing those in-home or receiving those in-home services, I should say. We have some access to specific assistance to help families with funding towards a service plan that we've put together with them. And the PARC program is able to make referrals to Families First. And I think we're the only program that can do that other than CPS, which is often good. If you've got a family that could use those supportive services through Families First, but you know, if the CPS workers don't want to make referrals or have to substantiate the charges, they should make a referral to PARC, obviously, if it's an adoptive or guardian family. We do a lot of work with coordinating of community resources or services, whether that's with CMH or with the schools. We sit on lots of IEP teams. We go to a lot of court hearings. We work with all kinds of different community resources and helping the families navigate those roads and being an extra voice. We sit on a lot of wraparound teams. Supporting the family and really bringing in that reminder of the adoption dynamics that might be playing out in a family unit. We have lots of support groups, and with COVID, it's one of the benefits of COVID that we have more access to them. We've had for years one standing in Washtenaw County. It's open to foster and adoptive parents and the youth. And unfortunately with COVID, we've only operated that virtually for the parents only, but hopefully we'll be able to get that back in person soon. But some of our support groups now, we have That specific Washtenaw one meets on the first and now on the second Mondays as well, because families were finding those so helpful. And we have a dads only group, which is often great if you know many adopted families. Sometimes it's the moms who bring their husbands kicking and screaming sometimes into the making the decision to adopt, and they weren't fully on board. And so this is a space for dads to be open and honest with each other and get some support. I have a flyer on that I will get up on. It was not in your deck of slides today, but we'll get that for everybody to know what those groups are and how to connect with them. And sometimes support groups, I know sometimes families think they have bad stigma with them, but we have so many families who tell me that was their lifeline, that when they were surrounded by other people who understood, who got it, and who were there to support them, it can be very beneficial. We do some fun activities in the summers. We try to do a lake day out at Independence Lake and bring foster and adoptive families together. And it's really helpful for the kids. A lot of time kids, they just want to be seen as any other kid. They're one of their peers, and often that their peers are not adopted. So if they can be around a group of others who are adopted, it makes them feel more accepted and more quote unquote normal. We have lots of training opportunities. In your slides, there's a flyer. We have one coming up for teens and drugs on June 12th, and that is open to the community, but it is geared towards foster adoptive kinship families. And then we do lots of information. We have resource guides, we have newsletters, we have a website, and we do provide phone access to our families, and we will respond to our families within 24 hours, and we'll get them that information back within 48 hours or 4 business days if that information is available. And so we get lots of questions about funding for education, let's say, or for I got one this morning that a family that was adopted internationally, and we'll go through the eligibility here in a minute. They were wondering, what do they need to do to help their kids get their driver's license? So we'll get that information back to them. Eligibility for park services, the children and the youth must be 21 years of age or younger. And a lot of people forget that. They think, oh, they're only eligible for services until they're 18, but we work with a lot of young adults who are transitioning into independence, whether that's with or without their family support. Unfortunately, sometimes we've had families who have made it till the child was 18 and then they have cut off their support for that child, which is super sad. So I encourage everyone to refer those young adults to park, and we can help them navigate their way. The youth must have been adopted through Michigan's foster care system or the guardianship that I mentioned earlier. And then also they may have been adopted internationally or through a direct consent or direct placement adoption, like an infant private adoption. A couple of caveats that throw a wrench in our system. Sometimes families adopted in a different state and they moved to Michigan, and technically they are not eligible for park services. However, depending on the situation the family finds themselves in, we are able to ask for an exception, and we have been able to serve many families who have adopted out of state. And then lastly, the adoption must be finalized. However, I still encourage families who are in the pre-adoptive stage to get connected with their local park. And park is a statewide service, by the way. Different agencies have different regions. We have regions 5 and 6, which covers Washtenaw County all the way over to Kalamazoo County, up to Lansing, down to the state line. And then the Thumb area, if you're working with families in the Tri-County areas, that is serviced through Orchards Children's Services. Our referral process is really pretty simple. Families may self-refer, or any supportive service or individual may refer families to park as well. Our referral line is here listed on the screen, and 99% of that time that referral line is answered live by our park supervisor. Her name is Jane Argiro, and she would have joined us today, but she is actually out visiting 3 different families today and is super busy working with families. But Jane herself, if you haven't met her, is amazing. She is an adopted parent and she has worked as a foster care worker for several years, so she truly understands a lot of the intricacies that come with being an adopted family. So Jane's a great resource for families. All right, lastly, I just wanted to leave you with some food for thought, and that just a reminder, and please, if anybody on this call is either an adoptee or an adopted parent or a birth parent who made an adoption plan for a child, please know that these are, my words here on the screen are things that are commonly seen, but certainly not for everybody. And everybody's story is their own story, and how they process stuff is how they process things. So, but adoption is a lifelong journey. Oftentimes, individuals or our society, if you will, think of adoption as a big, happy, joyous celebration. Well, we all need to remember that there was a lot of loss that happened prior to that celebration, and that the individuals in that adoption triad, being the adoptee, the birth parents, and the adopted parents, will be faced with that throughout their lifetime. And a lot of times we get calls from families with their children or adolescents, and they may have not had any issues if they were adopted at a young age or at any age, and they're just kind of marching through life. And then all of a sudden they hit adolescence, where they're really starting to think about things differently, and they start to think about their own adoption journey and how they got there, and thinking about being rejected and the loss and the concern that they have for birth families and all this stuff going on. And they may feel incredible loyalty to their adopted parents and not want to express those feelings that they are having, or they may decide they hate their adopted parents, and why did they get stuck living with you? And so just something to think about. I've had adults, 40, 50-year-old adults, say that they were absolutely fine, and then one day they woke up and it set them into a major depression thinking about their adoption story. So I just wanted to put that in there, food for thought, and just remind everybody, if you have anybody you know that's been touched by adoption, they might want to do some work, and certainly our PARC program is there to support. Lastly, our contacts, our referral line, I put it back in here. Jane Argiro, the supervisor that I mentioned, her number, her email address, my email address and phone number. I also am an adopted parent, and I have studied adoption for the last 10, 15 years. Our program has been in the works for 8, 9 years now. I will say we do have hard brochures if anybody has a place to stick them, that you work with families, either lobbies or offices or things you'd like to mail for folks. And I have an electronic version as well I could get to. Just send us an email, and there is our website. Are there any questions? No
Thanks
questions?
so much, Tracy.
You are welcome.
I'm seeing that we're running late on time, and so my apologies. There was a lot more interest in Hawk than I assumed. I originally put in 10 minutes for it. To honor all of our participants, I'd like to actually have Jewish Family Services present on their refugee resettlement information. And then at the end, we can skip back to RRT, but I just want to make sure that JFS has got their full time to present.
Okay.
Oh. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can, Cynthia.
I'm sorry. Now I'm having, of course, when time's almost, I'm having some difficulties. Okay. So I'm Cynthia, and I'm going to talk as brief as I can, specifically about our youth and intensive case management programs at Jewish Family Services. So as you know, JFS offers wide variety of services, but today I'm going to focus specifically on those two. I'm not going to go over who I am, but you can just know I am the lead supervisor of the youth program, as well as our intensive case management program. And I've been at JFS for 5 years, including some time as an intern. And so, as we also know, maybe JFS is the only agency in Washtenaw County that works with the State Department to resettle refugees. In other counties, you may have heard of Samaritas, Catholic Social Services, but in Washtenaw County, it's JFS is the majority of the representation. And so in these programs, it is immigrant and refugee based. So they do have to meet an eligibility requirement. And so it's not necessarily just refugee. That's why I included immigrants. They could be a victim of human trafficking, an SIV, which is a special immigrant visa. They could be secondary migrants. So they could have came as a refugee maybe a year ago, lived in a different state, and then moved to Michigan. Or they have to have an asylee status. So they can't be in the process of becoming an asylee. So they do have to have had that status granted. Or they can be a Cuban Haitian. So they came from Cuba or Haiti, and they have eligible status to participate in our programs. And this is mainly because of our funding sources. So it's not that we're very aware of other immigrant populations that require assistance, but due to our programming, these are the eligible statuses. So to get us started, our youth program is called the Youth Empowerment Programs, and it's newly developed. It's getting bigger. We're working on expanding it. So you have to have the eligible immigration status to be in any of these programs. You have to been in the U.S. for less than 5 years, so they cannot have citizenship yet. And they have to live within Washtenaw County. And once again, this is due to funding. So a majority of the programs I'm going to talk about today is for ages 14 to 20, I should say 25. It's actually, no, it is 14 to 24. I'm not wrong. And then there are some limited programs, which we're trying to expand for those 0 to 13. And there's several support staff underneath me that provides to this program. So the first thing that we have that we'd like to know is a newly developed youth, what we call the Youth Scoop. So it's similar, if you get our newsletters from JFS, you'll have seen these in attachments. We created this to keep the youth updated during the pandemic on all the changes with COVID. And so we created this for the youth and their family to not only highlight the youth and achievements that they've overcome, but also any support or resources that we could provide the youth. And this gets released monthly during the school year. And then the summers, we take breaks off of it. We also have our JFS support, which is Monday through Thursday after school tutoring. It's hosted by U of M students who volunteer with us. And this is after around 5 o'clock time frame we've had volunteers go to 7 o'clock helping our refugee and immigrant populations with homework, technology issues, or just someone to talk to for additional support during the pandemic. Once again, this was created during the pandemic when we noticed the switch to virtual learning, and with our English as a second language students, they were having a lot of difficulties. So we created this to provide additional support. And so this is available to all ages of any students, even college students who need assistance with their homework. One of our main programs is our youth mentoring program. So the youth have to be between the ages of 14 and 24 for this program. And within the eligible statuses, they get partnered with a volunteer mentor. Many of them come from U of M. And they create educational-based goals on what they want to achieve, what they want to do, where they want to go to college. We work through that with them, create goals, and ensure that they have the resources available to get to their goal, as well as provide them training and information on different subjects that could be beneficial for them regarding social support, civic engagement, financial literacy, different key topics that are important for our refugees and immigrants to understand as a student and a future citizen. We also just implemented our Immigrant Youth Advisory Council. So we have about 5 students on this. Excuse me. We meet twice a month, and we I host it, but we have it's youth driven. So the youth participate. We talk about leadership and communication skills. We go through different trainings on networking, equality, how to promote and be an advocate, as well as being an advocate for other refugee and immigrant youth in the community, as well as in JFS, on the note of also allowing them to create programming that they see gaps in within JFS and also within the community that we can create based on the youth's voices. And most recently, again, like I said, we are continually adding more programs within our youth empowerment services. So a lot of these are new that have just gotten started within the past 3 months or so. So we hired an educational support specialist who's working directly with Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, and we've also added Multicultural Academy to ensure that the families are receiving translation and interpretation, and they have contracts with us to ensure that they get access to that. We offer monthly consultations with each school to discuss any concerns, new cases, or just to make sure we're updated on what's going on in the school, whether it's returning in person, going back to virtual, any parent-teacher conferences to ensure that the parents of our students are being involved and know when things are, given the language barrier. We also are starting to offer trainings to the schools on how to work well with both the families and with trauma, and just making sure that they're trauma informed. And then every year we have our summer group, which this photo is taken from. We have our summer youth group, but more frequently now we've had girls group, a boys group, and we have a young adult group, and it's meant to promote psychosocial support, mental health awareness. And so we run those every 8 weeks. We have different groups going, and the ages are a large variety with different themes. We also, I'm going really fast, I know, I'm sorry. We also offer counseling services. So that's for all ages and not just immigrant status. We have our employment program, which is also for anyone who's employment eligible. And then we have our refugee social services program, which is less intensive needs. And for those 0 to 14-year-olds, they would fall in this program's category for additional services and support. So the intensive case management portion that I was talking about is called our preferred communities program. And so the same eligibility statuses apply, but there's no age limitation. So it could be a toddler all the way up to a senior citizen. They do have to have, they have to be in the US less than 5 years, no citizenship, lives in Washtenaw County. We have one full-time caseworker who runs this program, who I supervise, and that's Gladys. Some of you may contact her. She works very closely with some of the medical offices, DHS, CPS, different agencies that our clients might be involved in. So our preferred communities is intensive case management in specific domains that the client may need, whether that's they have excessive medical needs that they can't reach self-sufficiency, mental health needs, transportation assistance needed, language, social adjustment, and we provide them support, resources, as well as additional cultural orientation. So we teach them more specifics that will help them succeed in these specific domains that they're struggling with. This program, we can re-enroll. It's a year at a time, but if after the 1 year they haven't met their goals and they're not self-sufficient, like single mothers, we have a lot in this program. We can keep them in the program up to 3 years as long as they continue to meet the eligibility. We do a lot of outreach. This photo, we had some of the single moms, we had Buckle Up program come to our agency and teach the moms how to put their children in the car seats appropriately. So we do a lot of resource and community connection. So whether that's, we've had Corner Health, Buckle Up, we've had CPR first aid trainings for our single moms. We do different group programming as well for a lot of women's group and single moms groups. So that was a quick overview of all the programming, and kind of a summary is ways for you guys to be involved is hosting us or presenting us to our youth or our PC, our preferred community families, to know what is available to them, attending our refugee quarterly consultation meetings to keep updated on our refugee arrivals and what to expect from JFS, signing up for our newsletter, or being a volunteer if you find yourself to have spare time. So I just went through that real fast, but there you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, and my apologies again for
No, it's
failing
okay.
to
I
have
don't mind.
good time management on this. Do we have any questions? I see one from Nancy Shore in the chat. She's asking, where's the info about the youth resources on the JFS website?
So I don't believe our website is updated, but it would be under the resettlement. So under our resettlement and integration programs. And then, oh yeah, there's a brief, I'm on it now, under Refugee Youth Services. There's a brief little summary that it kind of overviews the program, but not specific. And I did see another question because I had the chat open, is youth in my program. So within all of the different programs, I would say I have about 40 to 50 youth that I work with in all of them. And
Cynthia, I was looking at the JFS site, and there is one area where you've actually got one page that's got kind of expanded around youth volunteerism, so I just dropped that into the chat.
Thank you. Yeah, we're always looking for mentors for our youth. We tend to look towards the younger population so they can kind of connect on a social level, but we're always open to volunteers to work with our youth and connect them to the community.
Okay, any other questions, folks? All right, well, thanks so much, Cynthia. Again, wonderful work that JFS is doing in interconnecting both refugee resettlement services and with youth. Thanks so much. Amber, can you pull up the third slide of the Barrier Busters agenda? So just a real quick funding update. We're still good as far as cash. We've got over almost $56,000 in flexible funding across the county, and then some limited funds with the city of Ann Arbor. What we're also doing is that historically we've allotted $25,000 per quarter for our flexible Washington County general funds. We're not doing that right now. We're just spending it as the need is in the community. And then we'll be seeing whether or not local foundations or local governments are willing to provide our network some additional funds as they did last year. So is there any questions in regards to the Barrier Busters funding update? Okay, seeing none, thanks all for attending our meeting. And we hope to see you all here next month too.
Thank you.